workshops. It's a wonderful thing that's been started here, and I know a lot of us miss seeing each other, so it's just really great to be together again and enjoy making some music, learning some new stuff, and finding out how everybody's doing during this extremely strange time in our life. But what's really been needed today is things have been snapping along so much that it's almost like all that stuff out there doesn't even exist. Right now we are in our own little area, and it's just it's a wonderful thing. So of course this is a lot different, as you've discovered, from a typical workshop at a festival. These are more like lectures and demonstrations. So there's not that direct interactivity, immediate interactivity that you normally get. But the way I've been conducting my workshops is that I am opening up for questions and answering those at different times throughout the workshop. And if you have any other questions, though, that maybe could wait until after the festival, then I direct you to send those to chat. You can send them to the general chat or to me privately, and I'll be doing a follow-up on any questions that we didn't cover during the workshop. So that'll be coming. So if you just go down to the bottom where the chat is, click on that and enter your question there. All right. So this workshop is about the original traditional dulcimer tuning, which is CGG. Those of you who have checked out the Jean Ritchie book, kind of the sepia tone colored book with her on the cover, know that everything was based out of C. And a lot of dulcimer books, when they first started coming out, made a big show of talking about this being a modal instrument and the 7 different modes and what those tunings were. And in that book, all of them are in relationship to the key of C. And so this is where we were for a very long period of time. I don't know what happened that made us suddenly revert over to being largely in the key of D. You know, probably some jam group was really tired of working with the mountain dulcimers and said, hey, you guys need to work with us, and you need to tune up a whole step in order to make this work. And we've been there ever since. And DAD, DAA, these are all popular tunings. But as many of you who sing with your dulcimers know, there's something about the key of D that's difficult. It's difficult to sing in that key, whether you're male or female. And there's something about simply taking it down a whole step to C that makes everything so much easier. Not only that, but the key of C itself has a richer tone than the key of D. So I really like this tuning for warming up the dulcimer sound. And I like CGG, which is 155 tuning. We'll talk more about what that is. It's a close voicing, which means that your chords are nice and tightly woven. They're rich sounding, and when you string up your dulcimer this way, it can sound like a baritone sometimes. Just a really wonderful and rich sound. So we are in CGG tuning, and there is a good chance that many of you simply took your dulcimers from DAD down to CGG. And what I recommend going forward, if you really want to experiment with this, is whatever string gauges you were using for DAD tuning, bump them up a number and make them heavier by about 1 number. So let's, for example, if you were using a 0.013 on the melody string, I would bump that up to a 0.014 for playing in CGG or CGC. If you're using a 15 on the middle string, bump it up to a 0.016. What that'll do is, since we're tuning down, we've got more slack in the strings, and it's a lot easier to press down on the strings, which means it's also a lot easier to stretch the strings a little beyond where they should, and that means that we're sharpening them, and they're going out of tune a little bit. So by bumping up a gauge, you're going to be taking that slack back out, and that way everything will sound really good. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do right here is I'm going to share the screen, and if you've got your handout materials, go ahead and get them out. I will be putting them up on the screen to illustrate some points, but if you want to keep them out so that you can look at them, especially for our tunes, that'll be very helpful. I'm going to go ahead and click on my iPad, click share, then go over to the iPad, and do this from the top corner, screen mirroring, hit screen mirroring, and now we've got a visual. Okay, so I'm going to go down here to the very, very first page. Adventures in Ionian. Ionian is the mode that the major scale is based off of. And so right there you've got CGG. with our tuning on the left side. Bass string is C, middle string is G, and the melody string, or strings, if you've got a dual melody string course, is G as well. So the numbers 551 or 155, they represent notes of the scale. So the C major scale is the only scale that has no flats and no sharps. All the notes are natural. And so we start with C and we simply move through 7 notes. So C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And they're numbered 1 through 7. So 1 would stand for C, 5 would stand for G. And that's where those are the scale degrees. Every single note in the scale is associated with a number. So, you know, if we were to build chords off of the 1st, 4th, and 5th notes of the scale, we'd call that a 1-4-5 chord progression. 1 for C, 4 for F, and then 5 for G. These aren't things that you really need to learn for playing in CGG, but in understanding real basic music theory, that might demystify a few things for you. Let me embiggen this just a little bit. Oh, such a great word, embiggen. And there we've got our fretboard layout. So what we're looking at right now is where all the notes are located in this tuning. So if you're used to playing in D, some of the notes have shifted around. We've lost some notes, but we've also gained some notes as well. And being that we are not a purely diatonic instrument, that we do have that extra 6.5 fret, we have some notes that aren't in the C major scale. But we can use that for a lot of really fun stuff. So going up the bass string, I'm going to go ahead and play these notes as well as we go through. I'm just going to start from the bottom, and I'm going to play everything I've got. I will not use the 1.5 just yet. A lot of people still don't have that. But if you have any 1.5 fret questions, I can answer those for you. So we're starting off with C, open. Then we're going to D, E, F, G, A, and then we've got a B flat at the 6th fret. Then we've got B, and then the octave C. And then going from the middle string, and I'll just do the middle string, I won't do the melody because they are the same. We start with G, A, B, C, D, E, we have an F, we have an F sharp, and then we have G. So when you first begin playing in this tuning, it helps to have that off to the side so that you can kind of look at it. It's very easy to look at the 3rd fret and go, oh, that's G. No, Siri, I'm not talking to you. All right, Siri. Thank you. Did I say Siri? No, don't say it. Okay. It's very easy to look down at your 3rd fret and go, oh, G. Oh, wait a second. We're down a step. That's F. So it's good to have that hanging out where you can take a look at it. Now I'm going to show you how to use this other thing. And if you've looked at your resource materials, you might have thought, wow, that's kind of funky. What exactly is this? Well, I got this from my Dulcimer theory guru, Jerry Rockwell, back in 2006 when I first began studying music theory for the mountain dulcimer. And this is called a chord constellation, and it is a great way of getting familiar with new tunings. So what we've got here is a page full of chords that you can find, and chords that are possible to us on the mountain dulcimer with the 6.5 fret and also the 1.5 fret, but this is mainly for the 6.5 fret. And so right next to each of those chord names, you've got the ingredients for what is inside those chords, what 3 notes belong inside those chords. For C major, it's C, E, and G. For D major, it's D, F sharp, and A. So we know what 3 notes go inside all of them. And then down below, we see what exactly that note represents. R stands for the root, which is the lowest pitched note in the chord. The 3rd is the 3rd, either the major 3rd or the minor 3rd. And the fifth is the perfect fifth, and that's the highest pitched note in the chord. That third note is the middle note in the chord. If you were looking at a stoplight, a traffic light, the green light on the bottom would be the root. The yellow light would be the third, whether it's major or minor, and the fifth would be the red light on the top as you're viewing it. So you can look down at D minor, for example, and see that we have a root, and then there's a little B and a 3. That means a flat third. That means the minor third. We're taking the third note of the scale and we're bringing it down a half step and changing it. Normally we wouldn't be able to do that with a true diatonic dulcimer. We could only play one instance of a chord or another. But with all the additional half steps, we can adjust little bits, one note at a time for chords, and we can get a lot more than we're really supposed to. So that's what's really nice about having the extra frets. All right, so here's how you use the chord constellation. Let's say C, for example. The first thing you want to do is look at the ingredients, and then using your note placement chart that we looked at first, what I would do is I would make a blank copy, a bunch of copies of these, and then take a pen and then put a circle, put a black circle over every instance of C, every instance of E, and every instance of G. And then all you have to do is connect 3 of those, one on each string, and find them where they exist in the closest form possible. And that will give you your chord shapes. Now the chord shapes for 155 tuning are a little bit different than DAD, but if you were to play in CGC, you'd find that all of your chord shapes are exactly the same. The notes are different, the chords are going to be different, but every single one of those chord shapes, the slant, the extended slant, and the L shape, are all there in CGC tuning. So if you want to get started and kind of dip your toe in the water with that, you can always take your DAD tablature, tune down to CGC, and play it. And if you're playing by yourself, it won't matter, but you'll hear it. It just sounds a little bit different. It sounds richer, it sounds fuller, and you can use your existing tab. But the chord shapes are different for 155 tuning, and we're going to talk about that right now. But that's how you use a chord constellation. You find this cluster, and I'll teach you these chord shapes now. But let's say, for example, that you've done the math and you've decided that you really need to have your dulcimer tuned to D, F sharp, A. It's a 135 tuning. It's very popular with a lot of people. But if you're just getting into it and you're unaware of the chord shapes, you don't know how to proceed. So what I would do is I would say, okay, if I'm going to be 135 tuning in the key of D, that's D, F sharp, and A, my home key is D. I'm going to write down all the possible chords in D major and list their ingredients. And then I'm going to find each instance of each of those notes in the chord, and then find where they exist the closest possible together, and then draw lines between them, and that comes up with your chord shapes. And you can do this with existing tunings. You can make up your own tuning and use this to create new chord shapes and get an understanding of how your chords are going to work. And that's really, really helpful. So let's take a look at our chord shapes. You can see them visually here, starting with D major. So this is called the T-shape chord. And the T-shape chord basically is, it looks like a triangle here, but if you were to connect, say for example, in this case, we're doing D. And let's do this. Let's start with 2-finger chords, first of all. Let's start with that very top one. 2-finger chords. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and get a bigger view of the mountain dulcimer here on the screen. I'm going to go to full screen. Okay. So 2-finger chords. We're going to be using the index finger and the thumb. So I'm calling my numbers from the bass string to the melody string. Go ahead and put your fingers on a 2, 0, 3. 2, I'm putting my index finger on the bass string at the 2nd fret, leaving the middle string open, and then putting my thumb on the 3rd fret on the melody string. And this is going to give me a C major chord. Listen to that richness. Isn't that something? Now, I talked a little bit about the 1-4-5 chords. This is the most popular chord progression on earth. So many cultures use this. Chords built off the first, fourth, and fifth notes of the scale. For the key of C, that's C, the 1 chord, F, the 4 chord, and G, the 5 chord. Right now, I'm going to show you how to play all 3 of these chords without ever going above the 3rd fret. So that's the first one right there. Playing a 2-0-3 chord is going to give you your 1 chord, C. Now I'm going to go slightly out of order to keep these together. Move this with your fingers. Just move it down to 1-0-2. And I do have a 1.5 fret there, so pretend that doesn't exist for the moment. Your fretboard will look like that. 1-0-2 is what we're looking at. This is a G major chord. This is your 5 chord. Let's go ahead and move that back up to C. That's very easy going between those 2 chords, huh? Let's go back down to G. 1-0-2. And let's come on up back to C. All right. Those are 2-finger chords. These are also open chords. An open chord means that you've got 1 string that you're not touching, and they exist on all different types of instruments, guitars, mandolins, ukuleles. And an open chord means that it only is going to work in a certain range. So if I move this chord back and forth from 102 to 203, that middle string is serving a purpose in both of those chords, so everything sounds nice. Now, as soon as I get out of range of that middle string and move those 2 fingers further and further up the fretboard, it doesn't sound bad. What we have is a nice parallel harmony, but the fabric of the chord, which was tightly woven, begins to dissipate. We leave that 1 untouched string behind and raise the pitch of the other 2 strings. So it is a nice, easy way playing the melody, and if you want to bring in a nice harmony, go back 1 fret on the bass string and just make the same lateral moves, and you'll get instant, beautiful harmony on that. It's nice to know these tricks when you're first getting into a tuning, because you can immediately start getting in and kind of playing around with everything. All right, now let me show you the 4 chord. This is a T-shaped chord. So the numbers I'm going to give you here are 3, 1, 3. I'm going to use my index finger on the 3rd fret on the bass string. I'm using my ring finger on the 1st fret on the middle string. And I'm using my thumb on the 3rd fret on the melody string. And that T, basically, you could connect the top of the T across the 3rd fret. And then the trunk of the T shoots right down the middle string and connects to the 1st fret. Here is F. F major. Nice. So I mentioned that the 203 C major chord and the 102 G major chord are both open chords. There's 1 string we're not touching. They're good in 1 small position, usually close to the nut, and then after you keep going and raising your pitch, it no longer really serves its purpose as a true chord. More like parallel harmonies. The T-shaped chord, however, we are touching all 3 strings, which means that this chord can be moved up, or this shape can be moved up and down the fretboard, and what we'll get, because we're a diatonic instrument, is we'll get either major or minor chords as we move it. And we'll talk a little bit about roots here in a second and how to know what chord you're playing based on the note where the root of the chord is located. Now let's kind of work these 1, 4, 5 chords in together. And literally, if there's nothing else you take away from this, it's if your friends are hanging around playing in C and you've decided you want to experiment with this tuning, this will give you the 3 chords you're going to run into the most and get you playing. So let's go ahead and start with our C chord, 2, 0, 3. Slide that down to G, 102. Go ahead and bring it back up to C. Now we're going to go to that T-shaped chord and watch this. First of all, the thumb is exactly where it needs to be already, going from C, our 2-finger chord, to this F. Sorry, going to F we're going now. So the index finger is simply going to come up 1 fret. And then when you do that, take the ring finger and then drop it down at the 1st fret on the middle string. Pretty simple transition going from C to the 4 chord F. To go back, lift your finger off the middle string, keep your thumb where it is, and take your index finger and move it down, back down from 3 to 2. So easy. Let's go from C back to F. Move that index finger up, drop in the ring finger or whatever finger you're using on the middle string at the 1st fret. Now let's go back to C. Let's come back up to F. Let's go back down to C. Let's take it down to G. Come back up to C. Let's go to F. Now let's go to G. Let's go back to F, T shape. Let's go down to C. There you have it, folks, your 1, 4, 5 chords in CGG tuning. As you can see, going back from C to G is easy. It's a slide, slide, slide back and forth. Do practice moving from C to F, and in time that muscle memory will click in. It's a different sort of thing than the shapes we play in DAD for certain. I happen to like these shapes a lot more, and there are 2 more that I'm going to show you. I think they're a lot easier to manage, and they definitely, the voicing of the chords, and by voicing I mean the location of the pitches in those chords is so much more satisfying. They're so much richer here. All right, let's take a look at 2 more chord shapes. These are both closed chord shapes. The first one is going to be the triangle chord. We're going to play a 4, 3, 5. Again, that's coming from the bass string and working our way to the melody string. 4, 3, 5. My index finger is on the bass string at the 4th fret. I've got my ring finger at the 3rd fret on the middle string. I've got my thumb on the 5th fret on the melody string. And to connect those with a line, you would get a slightly lopsided, but nonetheless very much triangle kind of shape. And this right here is a C major chord. Now, since we're playing all things and pressing down on all the strings, this is a closed chord, which means that this shape is movable up and down the fretboard. And once again, depending on where you're at and the intervals between the frets you've got, this will either result in major chords, minor chords, and in a couple of instances, you'll get some dominant 7th chords as well. That is the triangle chord. Now, since the melody string and the middle string are tuned similarly, you might be wondering if there is a difference. Does it really matter whether your thumb is on the melody string or the middle string, and whether your ring finger is on the middle string or melody string? Depending on how you play, yes, it makes a big difference. And why is that? Because most of us are leading off on the melody string to play melody. And so if you were to do this the other way, you can see where the problem would be. You wouldn't be able to lead off on that melody string. And that's why we're doing it that way, so that the thumb can play on the melody string with the bass string and the middle string serving as harmony to that. Next we have the extended slant. So much like we've got the slant chord, tic-tac-toe, 3 frets in a row when we're in DAD or 1-5-8 tuning. And the extended slant is when we take that melody string note and we come up 1 extra fret, right? This is the same thing, only instead of coming up with 1 string, we're going to come up with 2 strings. And the note we're going to anchor, the string we're going to anchor, is going to be the middle string. That stays where it is. But just like we moved our 2-finger chords back and forth with the thumb and the forefinger, boom, 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 back and forth, we're going to do that again. We're just going to take these 2 and we're going to move them upwards as if we were going from G to C. And we're going to anchor at the 3rd fret on the middle string. Do that. We're just going to move this whole portion from here to here. So from a 4-3-5 chord to a 5-3-6 chord. Look how easy it is to change chords with this. This is F, by the way. This is C. This is F. Compare the triangle C to the 2-finger C. Let's compare the extended triangle F to the T shape F. Those are the 2 same chords. They're the 3 same notes. The only thing that's changed is their position, their pitch inside of the chord. And that's what voicing is all about. When we flip chords over in DAD tuning, we are changing the voicing of a chord by reassigning the pitches of those notes. So that would be like taking our traffic light, which is normally green, yellow, and red, and then shifting the red to the middle, and shifting yellow to the bottom, and shifting green to the top. That would be revoicing a traffic light. And if we ever did that, there'd be chaos everywhere. More chaos than usual. So to review, we've got 4 basic chord shapes. One of these shapes is only good below the 3rd fret. And those are our 2-finger chords. C major, 203. G major, 102. And then our 3 main chord shapes are the T-shape chord. You could call this comparable to the L shape in its texture, and also in the fact that the root of the chord is on the bass string. So if you've got your note chart next to you and you look down at this T-shape 3-1-3 and you go, okay, I'm playing an F on the 3rd fret bass string, then ask yourself the question, is this chord happy or is it kind of serious? That's a pretty happy chord, so it's a major chord. Now let's move it to 4-2-4. I'm playing a G on the bass string. That's a pretty happy chord. That's G major. Compare this G major to the 102. Back to 424. Same chord, same notes, slightly different voicing. What if I take it to 535? I'm playing A on the bass string, and this doesn't sound very happy. It sounds sort of serious. So that's an A minor chord. So no matter where you go, if you know what the root of the chord is, you'll be able to name that chord with a little sleuthing, figuring out if it's a major or a minor chord. Going to the A-shape chord, the triangle chord. Back in the day when I first started playing mountain dulcimer, people called this the A-shape chord, which sometimes got truncated to the A chord. You can imagine exactly how confusing that would be. The triangle chord, the root is on the middle string. So whatever we're fretting on the middle string is going to be the root of the chord. This is comparable to the slant chord, where the root of the chord is on the middle string as well. So this chord right here, as we know, is a C major chord. We're playing C on the middle string at the 3rd fret. Now let's take this down to a 2-1-3 chord. 2-1-3 chord. We know that to be kind of a sad and serious little thing there. We're playing an A on that middle string at the 1st fret. So we have A minor going here. Compare that with the T-shape 535. And going back down to 2-1-3 for our triangle chord. It's on the middle string, just like the slant chord in DAD. Finally, we've got our extended slant. And this is just like the extended, the extended triangle. And this is just like the extended slant in that the root of the chord is on the melody string. So whenever we're playing on the melody string is going to give us what we're looking for. This is F major. Compare this to 3-1-3. So the root of the chord is on the melody string. You will run into some odd chords here and there, so be prepared for that. It's nothing that's too weird, nothing that you really can't handle. Usually it's a dominant 7th chord. If it sounds like neither major or minor, it's probably a dominant 7th chord. You'll also be making allowances for extra half steps and whatnot. All right. So this recap is in your handouts in 2 different places. One of these places is going to be on the front of your chord constellations, and there's a description there about how to alter those chords. And then if you scroll down from there, right below the C Ionian tuning chart, you've got the rules for 5-5-1 tuning for T-shaped, triangle, or A-shaped chords extended. Wow, how long ago did I write this out? I was still putting A-shaped chord. This is old stuff. Extended A-shaped chords, or really call it a triangle. And it shows you not only where the roots are, but where the 3rds are, where the 5ths are as well. All right, let's go ahead and open this up for questions before we get into our tunes. And I'll go ahead and I'll leave this up the way it is so that we don't lose the inset. But if you want to ask a question right now to get some clarification, go ahead and click on Participants, click on Raise Your Hand, and we'll see you there. We'll get you to unmute yourself, and you can go ahead and ask some questions now before we kick in.